Oh,
yeah,
man.
hey, can you hear me?
There he is. We can hear
How are
you,
you?
yeah. And thankfully, because it took us off hold from this brutal song and you were way better, Elias, than this song was. I'm just going to throw that out there right now.
Actually, I thought it was you trying to get heat because it was like we were booing it.
I wish I could have heard
so
it
bad.
now. Could use that in the future.
It was bad. You know what we'll do? We'll record it after we're done the interview, and we'll play it on the pod so you can hear it. It's that bad.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know.
Where are you at right now?
I'm currently in Orlando, Florida. I'm getting ready to head to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan.
Oh man.
Hey, it's perfect time of year for that. I mean, if you're going to go to Saskatoon, go in February. It'll be balmy.
Yeah, I think it's -6 right now, something like that. So go from beautiful Orlando to that.
Yeah. Have you been up there before?
Yeah, I was up there a few months back, and it was similar weather. So it seems like you can't win up there. Right.
I remember doing a show in Saskatoon, and Eddie and Chavo walking in with these huge parka, like fur-lined, hooded parkas, going, why would anyone live here? It was like -40. And I had no answer. I was like, don't look at the Canadian, man. I live in Toronto if I lived here. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, I feel the same way, too. I don't understand it.
It takes a different breed of person for sure. Hey, listen, before you came on, we were talking, we have this thing on the pod where we say that we rocket strap people to the top, and we're saying that we pre-strapped you because you and Jay talked about this at Raw 25 about coming on the pod, and then this week, lo and behold, who do you beat to get in the Elimination Chamber? Jonathan Cena.
John and Brooke, that's right.
Yeah, and it was just that, and in our minds, that strictly came from that conversation you and I had in catering at Raw 25 when. So, we call it a pre-strap because it was before you were actually on the pod, but just for the mere conversation, you're headed straight to the top. So, congratulations.
Well, thank you. I got to thank you guys, right? Because the pre-strap clearly it helped, and it's hard to argue with that considering what happened the very next week. So. I gotta say, I'm very glad we had that conversation.
Yeah, man.
I was just going to talk about the first time I met you, and it was down in Mania in New Orleans, and we all went out to dinner to like some really bad sushi place. Do you remember that?
Of course, I remember that. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
You sat there at the end of the table and barely said 2 words all night, and I was like, what is his deal? And then as I've seen your character kind of unfold on TV, I get it. You have a very dry delivery that I really, really like. And Beth can back me up on this because like I'm watching, I'm like, this cracks me up. Just the way you look at that audience and talk to them, it really works for me. I don't know. It hits my funny bone anyway. What's the mentality when you're going into doing some of that?
Well, okay. First off, thank you. And yes, I remember. I didn't realize I had creeped you out by just sitting at the edge of the table and not saying anything that whole night. That's good to know. I do recall us having a moment with the Ricola throat lozenges. I don't know if you remember that at all, but I've held on to that for a while. That was our thing, as I would tell my friends down the line. But yeah, I don't know. Going out there, I'm just thinking, geez, I guess in theory, considering what you just told me, I'm just being myself out there and treating the crowd like they should be very privileged to sit there and listen to me no matter what I've got to say.
Well, we were talking before you jumped on here about, and we just got into discussion about promos and things like that. You're very comfortable, especially with the persona that you're portraying, like you said, because it's you. Was there a time when you were coming up that you, before you kind of found this character, started portraying, I hate to say it because it is you. I mean, you love music. This is basically an extension of yourself. But was there a time where you ever find yourself trying to be something that you weren't? It wasn't working, and it was kind of frustrating. And what did you have any issues? Because you seem so comfortable out there.
Yeah, and well, thank you. But yeah, there definitely was times when I first started doing the drifter in NXT. I remember I just wanted to sit in the back turnbuckle corner and just strum the guitar, and I thought that would be the coolest thing, and never had to sing or speak or anything like that. I kind of thought, you know what, it'll be mysterious and cool. And one time I went to Largo, Florida, and Terry Taylor said, hey, how about you sing a song tonight? And I said, okay, about what? And then he said, just sing about the crowd. And so I came up with a song that night, and it felt like it was just one of those things that kind of clicked right off the bat. And so I evolved it from there. And then I start asking who wants to walk with the drifter, tell a little story. And so it really did all start in NXT, even though the NXT TV audience maybe didn't get to see that side of me too much. The live event crowds definitely did get to see that.
Mm-hmm. On top of just having to put together matches and all that, now you have to write songs. Now you have to play the songs. Then you have to do the match. How much time are you having to put into trying to think up of some lyrics to fit, either that week, that storyline, or that town?
So the good thing is I know where I'm going to be next week. Like San Jose's coming up, and I've got live events. But I'll be honest with you, I write a new song for every city I go in. So tomorrow for Saskatoon, they'll have a special Saskatoon, and I'll come up with something each one. But I normally have an idea heading in there what I would want to sing about or talk about, and it helps kind of writing the song a little bit easier when it comes game time.
Yeah. I remember, even like you said, the kind of process of this whole thing. And I remember talking with you down when I went down to help with a little bit of training and stuff at the Performance Center, and you kind of telling me a little bit about this. And I'm not sure if you ever did it or not, but I remember you explaining to me at one point that you just kind of wanted to go out in the the parking lot of the venues for NXT, like live events and stuff like that, and just walk around playing the guitar, and then just kind of stroll into the building and kind of walk through the crowd playing the guitar, just hoping people would be like, what's this guy's deal? Like, did you ever do that, or was that just something that you wanted to do?
No, that's absolutely something that I did do. Where the people would file in on the outside of the buildings, I just I set up a chair and went out there with my guitar, and I sat and played. And I would just, people would converse with me here and there. And, it was one of those things where I wasn't being used even on the NXT live events at this time. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start from the ground up. I'm going to get to know literally all the people that come to these Florida shows and see if I could get something started there. So, yeah, I was out there, and sure enough, people would give me dollar bills here and there to stuff in my guitar and or in my guitar case. Sat out there, played the guitar. I felt like I was entertaining them. And then if I would wrestle later on in the show, it seemed to, I want to say, relate to the interactions that I had outside the building earlier.
So talk about, kind of the creation of this character. Like, how does all of this come about? Because, you've seen musical gimmicks in the past, whether it's the Honky Tonk Man or Jeff Jarrett or things like that. This is not that. This feels way different than that. And it feels much more current and tapped into a vein that's happening right now. So did you sit down and come up with that? Did you have help with it? How did that all come about?
Yeah, I did. I came into NXT very early with this. Okay, well, I can tell you, when I was on the independent circuit, I did a character, I guess if you want to call it that, called Heavy Metal Jesus. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
If I was going to an indie show, you would have been my favorite. As soon as Heavy Metal Jesus comes out, I'm like, okay, that's my guy.
Yeah. And it was very similar, just in the fact that it was rock and roll based. I looked like Jesus. It was all that, but I wasn't even playing the guitar. It was just all imagery for me, even though I've been playing since I was 15 years old. So I took that, I brought it to NXT. They said, you can't do the Jesus thing. So I kind of started thinking what I wanted to do, and I loved the show Sons of Anarchy. I don't know if you guys were fans of that show at all.
Mm-hmm.
But it just had a very, I guess, modern but very edgy feel to it. And I thought, okay, how can I tap into this kind of vibe in just a different way for wrestling? And I brought the guitar, and I always envisioned myself being able to sit on the set of that television show, sitting there with my guitar and fit in totally. And it just kind of evolved from there. I brought it to Dusty Rhodes, and he took a liking to it right off the bat. He was a big supporter of mine all the way up until he passed. And then, of course, Triple H put it on NXT TV, and it kept going from there.
And I think personally, because I saw the NXT stuff, but I feel like it really took hold when you got to WWE. I think that's when people really started to get it. And whether it's the difference in audiences or what, but it's feeling like a groundswell. Like as soon as they hear that guitar strum, they come up, and it really feels like it's grown more in WWE, which, let's be honest, with people coming up from NXT, can be rare.
Oh yeah. And Triple H has told me, kind of specifically from the very first time he saw me, he thought this would be a better main roster character than it would be for NXT, and it never really, I guess you will say, it never really clicked with the NXT TV audience the way it has. And the way I see it is I took kind of my live event act that I was doing in NXT, and I brought that to the main roster. It was like they saw the live event act, and they said, all right, let's put that on TV. Because on NXT TV, I think maybe I would just sing songs, and maybe I wouldn't even do that much, and they were very dark and cryptic. But this is the kind of stuff I was doing on live events on NXT before I got called up.
Yeah, well, I think we've talked about it on here too before, and then there is a different audience, right? I mean, it's a little bit more of a hardcore wrestling audience for NXT with on SmackDown and Raw. It's a little different audience, right? So were you aware of that and strictly kind of focusing on, look, I'm going to eventually get this to the main roster, and not so much concerned with just going out there and just being a wrestling persona on NXT? Was that very much in your mindset?
Well, I mean, yeah, since I was, like I said, since I was an independent wrestler, you always wanted to be on Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, the pay-per-views and all that stuff. But I got to say, when I was in NXT, I was absolutely set on, like, I got to have a takeover match. I wanted to be featured on, I wanted to be featured on NXT. And, yeah, I know the audience is different. They're more of a hardcore wrestling-based fit. But in my head, I could do that too if I'm given the opportunity, But I guess they had other plans, or they just saw it differently. But yeah, when I was in NXT, I was all in on NXT. I wanted to be on the takeovers and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think that gets lost too, because you portray the character so well that, and I want to stop saying that because that's you, but I mean, because you are this character so much that it almost gets lost, the fact that you're really talented in the ring. Like, you can really go, and I've seen you have some, especially when you have some time, you can really go out there and kind of pace and have a good match, and I see you potentially, and I've said to somebody, I was just doing a Q&A. I was in France this past weekend doing an appearance and a Q&A, and somebody asked me who I saw as a potential top star going forward in WWE, and I said you. And I mean that, because I just think that you kind of have the whole package. And so I don't want to say that it's kind of understated how good you are in the ring because what you're doing with the promos and all that is so good.
You guys are great. I wish I called in here all the time. Jeez. But the truth is I was a wrestling fan long before I even played guitar. So, and I studied wrestling, and I always wanted to learn more. I still always want to learn more. And I had some great people cross my path that were able to teach me along the way, or I crossed their path, for lack of a better term. And so, the wrestling is just as important to me, and putting on good matches and stuff like that as anything else.
Well, talk a little bit about that, because it sounds very similar to the same interests I had growing up and Jay had growing up, although Jay wasn't into his music as much as I was. But it sounds like you were...
I was more into boy bands.
That's true. That is a legitimate, real comment right there. Yeah. So is that your thing? Is that your thing growing up? You're listening to music. You love wrestling. Those two converge, and how can I make this kind of musical rock and roll type character?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to be like, I guess Shawn Michaels growing up. And, I got into music. I got into like classic rock when I was like 14, 15 years old maybe. And my dad saw me taking a liking to it, especially Eric Clapton. So he just bought me a guitar one year, and I just started playing from there on out. But honestly, I never saw them, my guitar playing and wrestling. I never saw them really crossing paths until NXT even. Because like I said, on Independence, I did Heavy Metal Jesus, but I never even played guitar. It was more about being Jesus-like than anything. But I never really saw it crossing paths until NXT came about, and I knew that character is extremely important when it comes to WWE, and I wanted to stand out, and I wanted to be different and let people know that I have something to offer. So it just so happens I've been playing guitar for 15 years. Let me see if I can mix these together. So.
Well, you talked about Shawn Michaels being a huge wrestling influence. So musically, you talk hard rock, Clapton. Who else? Who else are you listening to growing up? Who else are you listening to now?
Well, the same people I listened to growing up are the people I listen to now, like Bruce Springsteen, Johnny Cash, Eric Clapton, Led Zeppelin, Leonard Skinner. But right now, a guy I really like is Chris Stapleton. I think he's just got a gritty voice and bluesy soul, and he's awesome, man. I could listen to him all day long.
Yeah, he's a little bit rock and roll. He's a little bit honky-tonk. He's a little bit country. He's a little bit of everything, but it all boils down to that voice, man, and that guy can belt it out. I've been actually listening to a lot of him over here.
Oh, nice.
Jay, you're probably going to be excluded from this conversation because it doesn't involve the Backstreet Boys and Britney Spears. So
it's a work, man. I really do like all sorts of music. I'm not Zack Ryder. Yeah. I'm not strictly just a boy band guy.
Okay, gotcha.
So the character definitely has a Springsteen, Johnny Cash vibe to it, and that really does translate. But where does where does Walk with Elias come from? Was that just a play on WWE, or who came up with that? How did that come about? How does that play into like the music? Does the music have anything to do with any of these ideas, the music that you listen to?
Okay, so the Walk with Elias thing, well, it all started with the Drifter in NXT, so it's all kind of evolved, right? The Drifter, the character was this guy that, I put a guitar on my shoulder and I walked from town to town. I find my way town to town however I can, whether it's hitchhiking on a bus, walking, whatever I got to do. So it just became a question I would ask, who wants to walk with the Drifter? Who wants to join me in this journey? And when I got to the main roster, it said, let's drop the Drifter stuff. You're going to be Elias, and that's going to be it. So, walk with Elias was the next question, right? And it just so happens to perfectly work out that WWE and Walk with Elias are right in line there. So, I said it one time. I remember I said it backstage to John Cena. He was going off about the WWE Universe and the WWE this and that. And I said, hey, John, do you know what WWE stands for? It stands for Walk with Elias. And he said, my head just exploded in 10 different ways, man. That is great. And he said, you got to make a thing out of that. So, sure enough, the next week or whatever, I said it against John, I believe, in a promo on Christmas Day, no less. And it seems like right away the fans really reacted to it. And then the next week I started asking them, what does WWE stand for? They'll fire back. So.
Yeah, I mean, when that happens, that you've resonated, like something you've said has resonated with them and it's connected. And we've talked about your promos on here before, and it seems like how comfortable you are, and that's the key to your real personality and having reach the audience the way that you want them to. Like I remember one time specifically, you were talking and they started booing you really loudly, and then you stopped and you just said, well, now that you interrupted me, I'm going to have to start over again. And they just started to boo the crap out of you even more. Was that something where you're just out there willing to take some chances? Was that something that just kind of happened and you did that? Or because ad-libbing and those sorts of things and feeling the audience are really important as far as promos go. Is that something that you're feeling really comfortable doing at this point?
Yes, absolutely. And I got to say, I don't want to put too many names out there, but people in charge, more or less, have given me an amazing deal of freedom when it comes out there. And, so I'm able to try things like that where, I'll say, if you're not going to let me sing, then I'll just leave. Actually, you know what? I love the sound of my voice. I'm going to sing. Or I'll just say something like that where they let me kind of mess with the crowd if they try to overpower me or something like that, So I'm not in any rush to get through any script because I'm just talking,
Yeah. Yeah, and they're not going to give you that unless they see a comfort level there and the fact that you have the ability to be able to do it. So you get to the main roster, things start kind of, all falling into place for you. Where do you see this going? Like, where do you ever see Elias becoming some other, I don't know, incarnation of the character? Because you see like the Undertakers and the really long-lasting characters have different phases of their career. Do you see that ever happening with this, or are you just going to run this as long as you can?
No, I definitely see it evolving. I don't want to just run it till the wheels fall off, but I definitely want to, get the most out of this incarnation of it. And then, hopefully, just wherever the crowd, I guess, reactions and maybe storylines take me, there's many levels because, just think about, I guess, any kind of rock star that's really had a journey. They've had their ups and downs, and they've got their egos and they've got their demands and all that stuff, and then they hit rock bottom. So there's just a million ways to go with Elias. So I in my mind, I plan on evolving it in many different ways.
That's cool. Hey, we're kind of all over on this podcast here. Like we pretty much don't know what we're doing at all, so we just kind of wing it. But kind of backing up even further again, in talking about your love for wrestling, where did you, in talking about wrestling on the independents and all that sort of thing, where did you train to wrestle originally?
So I originally trained out of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. That's where I grew up. It was a school called the Coalition of Competition. And actually, Christian, you're one of my first times actually getting in the ring on a live show involved you. I believe it was you and AJ Styles at
I remember that. I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think at some point in the night there was a big run-in with a bunch of wrestlers, and I ran in and I got punched in the head and flew out of the ring, and it was my first little taste of like a live event on the Independence there. So that's where I trained.
Okay, well, I got to ask real quick before we go any further, who punched you? Was it AJ or Jay?
It was Jay. It was Jay.
Oh man.
Was it
how stiff was it? How stiff was it? Because he used to hit me and it felt like he was smashing my face with a ball-peen hammer.
Yeah. I remember thinking, if this is what wrestling is, I'm not sure I'm into it. That was
So you're
I'm
such
kidding. I don't
Oh, man. Man.
No. It was nothing like that. But so I went through the Pittsburgh school, and then as I start wrestling, I start learning from more people. I used to drive to Louisville on weekends where I wasn't booked, and I would train with Rip Rogers. And I would just kind of go to seminars if they were around and available, things like that, until I got picked up with NXT.
Well, how did the whole NXT thing come about? Like, was it something that you had sent some stuff in, or did somebody happen to see you, or how did that whole thing happen?
Well, no. So again, you get into wrestling, and I wanted to be in the WWE, so I had done these paid tryouts that they used to do. You used to be able to pay $1,000 to try out at FCW. And I actually did that 3 times. I got told no every single time by whoever was in charge. But I would do extra work. I'd be an extra at Raw and SmackDown whenever it was in like an 8-hour radius of Pittsburgh. So I'd go there, and I'd always pick Regal's brain. One of these times he asked me to have a dark match with Dean Ambrose. This was before he got into the Shield, or before the Shield started. I had a match with Dean Ambrose. After that, William Regal said, hey, I'd like to invite you down to Florida for a tryout. I wouldn't have to pay for this one. They were going to bring me down to the tryout. I still did not get hired after that tryout, actually, but about 6 months afterwards, again, doing extra work and working on the indies, William Regal said, they're going to be hiring coming up, and if I get the opportunity, I'm going to put in a word for you to come join us. So you got to give credit to William Regal for that one.
Yeah, he's a guy that it's a recurring name that our guests always bring up. Basically, it's him and Dusty, it seems. A lot of Rip Rogers references too, but Regal really having his ear to the ground on new talent and keeping his eye out and having an eye for it too. A lot of people have said that and how much help he's been to their career. So, and we both, Jay and I know him well. So, it's always nice
and
to
his
hear.
word is, and the thing is too, if he's saying that, he's not just giving you lip service, he meant it.
True.
And also, I think it's really important here to say that obviously that you stuck it out, because especially if you're paying that much money to try to get in somebody's face and have them take notice of you and get turned down, and then come down for a trial and get turned down, for you to stick with it, that kind of tells me how much you love this and how much you really wanted it. So to see it pay off the way that it has, man, that's amazing.
Oh, well, geez, yeah, thank you, for sure, because I don't know, it's a weird thing. They told me no early on. I said, okay, I'll come back when I feel I'm better. And I remember I got a piece of advice at the last tryout that I didn't get hired at, where Shawn Michaels came in to talk, and he said, just remember, and he was just saying this vaguely to everybody that was there, that no means not yet. And I just really took that to heart, because at that point, that was 4 tryouts for me. And, you have friends at home and things like that, like friends, as I call them, saying, what are you going to do if, you're not at wrestling and stuff like that? What would you do? And I never really had a true backup plan. I did get a degree because my dad told me to get a degree if I wanted to be a wrestler. But other than that, but yeah, so that advice stuck with me, and I always just wanted to be here, and I knew it wouldn't be an easy journey, so I guess I knew what I was signing up for.
Well, again, with the recurring theme, but it always goes back to Jay and I talking about it. I'm going to get all fired up here, Birdman. I'm going to tell it like it is, because here's the deal. Anybody who starts to make it, anybody who does make it, they've got to bet on themselves. There's got to be that stick-to-itiveness. That's a good word. They got to have that gumption. They got to have that chutzpah, man. And the fact that you kept coming back and paying $1,000 each time, people are noticing that. People are paying attention, going, okay, there's that kid again who just dropped another $1,000 to just get his grill, up in our face. And that goes a long way, because it's showing, hey, I believe in myself. And the first thing, in order for a company to believe in you and put some investment and some stock in you, is you got to have that stock in yourself. You got to believe in yourself in order for them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, makes total sense. You two guys are living proof of that, so.
Yeah, and I think too that, like, with going through those things too, where it's like, okay, yeah, this guy's, he's 6'8" and he's a freak, so we'll just bring him in. It's like, that it almost instills that work ethic in you too. Okay, you got to keep grinding, because I've always said this: getting to WWE and staying in WWE or moving up the card or the mountain in WWE are completely different things, right? So you have to have that work ethic with you at all times, because you can't just get there and then just rest on your laurels. You have to get there, and you have to keep grinding daily, weekly, to really take off.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been here for 8-9 months or something like that, but that's very clear. And you could see that work ethic and all that stuff is paid off. And you're right, did you say like the freak or whatever that they're going to bring in or something like that? You see that, and I just knew I was never that guy, so it had to be other things that brought me to it. And again, go back to William Regal. He would always say, like, he wasn't anything special, but he just worked really hard at all the details. And so, it's just all these little tips you pick up along the way that keep you going one way or another. It's really cool.
Well, and amassing all of those things and putting all of those things in your tool belt, eventually all of that does get you to where now you're doing something special, and you start to learn the tricks, and you start to learn angles and get camera angles, and really hearing that audience, and being able to pull the best out of your opponent. And that just all comes with reps. So you're getting those reps now, and there's nothing else that's going to get you ready to do all of those things except for doing it. And you're getting that opportunity, which is amazing. Now, if you're looking at your character, and let's say, because we would always compare our characters to music or to movie characters, what path would you see for Elias as he's walking and everybody's walking with him? What path are we looking at? Are we looking like a Springsteen type path, a Steven Tyler type path? Because you got the scarves. I'm just saying.
You
got a little bit of the Steven Tyler thing. So
yeah, what's funny is I didn't even throw that name out there, but man, I love Steven Tyler. I love Aerosmith. God, his voice is just somehow seems to get better as he's got to be like in his 60s now, maybe even older than that.
Easy. Yeah.
I mean, he's freaking incredible, man. So I could just say, if I followed that Steven Tyler path, man, that'd be more than I could have imagined. That's for sure.
That's cool. Hey, and you said earlier, obviously you grew up a Shawn Michaels fan, like you were saying, you wanted to be Shawn Michaels. Who do you look at the scope of both Raw and SmackDown? Who are you that you might not even had a chance to get in the ring with yet? Who are you looking at down the line saying, man, I think I could do some cool things with this person?
So up until recently, it would have been John, but now that I get in there with him, I'm like, yeah, I could definitely do some cool stuff with him. Like only kind of scratch the surface in my mind of where we could go story-wise. As far as other people, let's see. Man, I had a great time in NXT with Shinsuke and didn't even get to do anything on TV. It was all the live event stuff.
Oh, wow.
So Shinsuke knocked more. Yeah, that would be that would be fun. Let's see.
There'd be something kind of cool there too with the Rock. Calling him the Rock Star, and then with your persona might be kind of a cool thing there too, right?
Yeah, right. And you know, every so often it pops up. Every couple months, the guy pops up in my life, Chris Jericho, and he decides he wants to put me on the list or say something smart like that. So, I think there's a lot of just all kinds of angles I could go with him if I ever got the opportunity. That's for sure.
Plus the scarf heat right there, right?
That guy takes it very personal if somebody wears a scarf. That's for
sure. He's committed to that thing now. Yeah.
Man.
Yeah. I mean, you and Shinsuke in particular, I think, it's like Michael Jackson versus Johnny Cash.
It's like, you know what? That's pretty spot on. Seriously.
Yeah. I'd pay to see that match. I think Johnny would whip his ass, but I mean,
I'm sure he would. Yeah.
You never know. Michael was pretty limber though, so we'll see. I guess we won't see actually, since they're both dead. But hey, the wrestling version of it. Who you betting on, Birdman? You betting on Shinsuke? Or you betting on Elias?
Oh man, Elias, that's my guy. I already said it.
Okay, yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go. You just got rocket strapped again, man. Yeah. Like,
wow.
Wow. Big strapping right there.
So this
big strapping.
So this the Elimination Chamber coming up. You got your spot. How you feeling about that? I mean, Adam and I have both been in that before, and it's a different animal altogether being in there. Have you been studying some Elimination Chamber matches, or how are you really looking forward to that, or what are your feelings on that opportunity?
So, I haven't been studying, but I've seen them all because, again, I've just been a huge fan my whole life. So I've seen every Elimination Chamber match. I don't know what I'm getting into personally because I've never been in there. I've never felt it. I've never been in one of those pods, and to see what that's all, the anticipation or anxiety or whatever it is that's in there that you feel. I'm just going to have to experience that once I'm in there, but I am definitely looking forward to it. And I've got the advantage. I'm the sixth person in. I'm the last person in, so I get to see everybody do their thing while I watch. Yeah.
Well, spoiler alert, it hurts.
Is that right? Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Thank you.
Well, it's truly like, out of all the matches I've been involved in, from a structure standpoint, man, thing, it does hurt. Like, ladders hurt, sure, and tables can, whatever, chairs, but that thing, there's no place that has give. So in particular, if you bump from the ring to the kind of the grating there where normally you would go to the floor, your body is accustomed to having that extra, couple feet to get to the floor, and there isn't that, and it's steel, and so not to, not to worry or anything, but that thing sucks.
Yeah, a little late for that now. Come on.
I will say, though, like, from a personal standpoint, one of my favorite matches that I was ever involved in was an Elimination Chamber match. And if you can really do some fun, creative stuff in there still, even though there's been plenty of them. And it could be just because you have so many different characters in there. You have the pods. There's a lot of different stuff you can do. So they're always fun matches, as much as they hurt.
Yeah, for sure. You got to balance it out somehow, I guess, huh? It is fun still.
Yeah, man. Well, dude, we don't want to keep you too much longer because we know you took some time and you gotta leave. Are you leaving a day early to go on this because Saskatoon is so hard to get to?
Yep, that's exactly it. So I'm leaving here at I'm leaving right now. It's almost noon. I think I get in at like 11 o'clock tonight in Saskatoon just because the flights are so sporadic getting in there. Yeah, exactly. Nice long travel day.
In the grind, man. But we won't keep it too much longer. We appreciate you taking the time to talk to us, man. We're really happy for all that you're doing. We're both big fans, so we'll keep watching and keep doing your thing, man. And good luck with everything you're doing.
thank both of you guys. This was a lot of fun. Good stuff. Good conversation. I appreciate both of you.
Yeah, we'll catch up on some tunes when I see you next at Mania.
Sounds great, man. Sounds great. Look forward to it.
All right, man. Fly with Elias.
Yeah, pack some extra scarves for Saskatoon.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
All right, see you, buddy.
See you, buddy.
All right, guys. Bye.
Well, I've been sitting here all day. I've been sitting in this waiting room. And I've been waiting on my friends. Yes, I'm waiting on this conference call.
Brutal. Oh my God, this is so bad.
This is my jam.
I'm on hold.
Yes, I'm on hold.
Yes, I'm
Worst.
on hold. Oh, man.
I don't got all day. How about at first? At first, when that first came on, I was like, "Wait, is he coming on the line singing?"
I know.
I thought it was him at first.
like almost like making fun of us for leaving him on hold for too long.
Yeah.
Man.
And he was prepared with his guitar, and he made up some lyrics, just scratched them out just like that.
Yeah.
But that was our hold music. How about that? We
That's my jam.
forced him to listen to that.
Yeah.
For however long.
We need to keep that music going somehow.
Do we,
like
though?
It. I think we do. That's gonna be my next ring entrance music.
Yeah, that'll lather the crowd up into a fervor.
Yeah.
Woo.
All right. Well, good conversation with him, man. He's really talented, and I didn't. And I've talked to him a few times. Very, like I said, when you meet him in person, quiet guy, really nice guy. And so I'm really happy for all the success because he deserves it, and he's working hard. And yeah, man, very, very cool stuff.
Yeah, and I feel bad. At Mania in New Orleans there a couple years ago, it was me and it was him and it was the Revival, and I know the Revival really well, so I'm down there riffing with those guys, and he was just sitting at the end of the table. But I could tell he's got something going on, and we had the little Ricola throat lozenge thing. So but yeah, he's a quiet guy, but he's a good, very good guy, and it'll be interesting to see where he can take that and how far with that incarnation he can take it. Because
and like you said,
there's a good vibe when he's out there. It's like he's got something with his delivery that makes you want to watch.
When he says, "Who wants to walk with Elias?" and the crowd chants it, there's a connection. That's when you know that when they say it back, or when you give them an opening and they finish your sentence, that's when you know there's a connection. And he's done it, man. And he's doing it, and he's still got a ways to go, but I think that he's talented enough that he's going to get there. And I meant what I said when I had that Q&A. They asked me who I saw as a future top star, and I think that he's got the total package to do so. So good for him.
Well, and he looks the part, too. He matches up physically. He's a big dude. Yep. He's in shape. He's strong. So he can get in there with a Reigns. He can get in there with a Cena, and it's completely believable.
That he could fight,
Yeah. Well, there you go, Bert. Hey, you know what? We were talking earlier about those promos where I went on my rants of getting out of matches due to, social issues. The other one that I can remember was in Washington, where I tried to get out of a match with Jeff Hardy because of the Washington Redskins name. That was the other one.
Wow.
Yeah. Although maintaining some heelness, I then brought out an Indian opponent for Jeff in the Great Khali. And obviously Native Americans and Indians are not the same. They're nowhere near the same. But, in Edge's world, that was, Well, so there you go.
That wraps it up for another week here, huh?
Yeah,
Bert.
Yeah.
Wait. Do you hear that? That's me not giving a shit about anything else you have to say right now. So
yeah, I could tell by that reaction when you were like, so anyway. Either that or you embarrassed for me because in a promo I somehow segued from Native Americans to Indians.
Let's get the conversation back to me, Edge. How can we do that?
Yeah. We can say you're a fucking asshole, and that the next time I see you, I am going to open hand slap you in your skinny little neck.
Oh, fuck.
And then from there, I want to snap your little shin bone in half. I want to take the bottom half of it, put it sideways in your mouth, and then give you the old, bear hug, get out of the bear hug slap. Boom!
I want to take 2 drinking straws, and I want to fucking jam them in your eyes, and then drag you down the sidewalk so you get scraped all on your back. And then I want to suck your eyeballs out of your face with the straws, spit them on the road so a dump truck runs over them and squishes them. Then I'll flip you over, throw you on the bushes, throw on my Anchorage ass slapper shirt, and I'll just slap your ass.
Well, I knew it had to get to ass slapping at some point because you have a weird fetish with my ass. Also, there's a hole in your game here because there's no way my eyeballs would fit in a straw. So you're stuck.
No, it's
there.
one of those fat, thick straws,
It doesn't matter. You're still going to choke on it. It's probably going to go straight down your throat.
One of those ones that you eat a smoothie with.
Slice your throat up. And just
I'm not swallowing them. I'm spitting them on the road. They get run over by a truck.
But I'm saying you're going to suck so hard because you do, and that the straw is just going to shoot back down your throat. Yeah.
I got to rethink my game plan here. All right, till next week.
This is your part, Jay. You can take it. I take the beginnings.